Speak like a Gringo. Chapter 2, W and Y.
Hola, and welcome to Speak Like a Gringo. In our first program, we discussed the way gringos pronounce the letters B and V. Today, we will tackle a couple of other letters that sometimes pose problems for native speakers of Spanish when they speak English. The letter W can be confusing because W is rarely used in Spanish. The letter Y, on the other hand, is used a lot in Spanish, but many native speakers of Spanish do not pronounce it the way gringos pronounce it. So I'm going to give you a couple of tricks that will make it easier for you to pronounce W and Y the way gringos do. Are you ready? Let's start with Y. Some native speakers of Spanish pronounce the letter Y with more of a zh or a j sound. This sounds lovely in Spanish, but if you really want to sound like a gringo, you should always pronounce Y at the beginning of a word with the y sound. Some common English words that begin with Y are yes, you, yellow, and young. So here's the trick for pronouncing these words like a gringo.
Notice how in each word the letter Y is followed by a vowel. Almost every word in English that starts with a Y will have a vowel for the second letter. So when you pronounce these words in English, you are actually making two vowel sounds in a row. And in each case, the first vowel sound is the same as the sound made by the letter I in Spanish, I, like iguana or kilo. So when you see the letter Y at the beginning of a word in English, replace it in your mind with the letter I in Spanish. Let's try a few examples. When you see the word yes, pronounce it as if it were spelled I-E-S. Yes, yes. Notice how I put an accent over the I to remind you that this is a Spanish I, not an English I. Now you try it. Yes, yes. Once you get used to doing this, you can speed it up a little so that you will sound even more like a gringo. Yes, yes. Let's try a couple more. You, you. Now you try it. You, you. Yellow, yellow. Your turn. Yellow, yellow. Great.
One final word about the letter Y. When it shows up at the end of the word, it also makes the same sound as the letter I in Spanish. For example, pretty, funny, baby. All of these end with the E sound, but you already knew that, didn't you? So let's move on to the letter W. And guess what? We are going to use the same trick we used with Y. The only difference is that when you see the letter W at the beginning of a word in English, you should replace it in your mind with the Spanish letter U, like in the Spanish words uno and uso. Let's use this trick on some common English words.
Notice once again I put an accent over the U to remind you that you should pronounce it like a Spanish U. Were, were. Where were you? Now you try it. Were, were. Will, will. When will you come home? Your turn. Will, will. Now here's one that a lot of people struggle with, but it's the same idea. Would, would. Would you like a cup of coffee? Go ahead, try it. Would, would. Very good.
A couple of final notes about W. This trick works only when the letter W is followed by a vowel. But don't worry, Because if a W at the beginning of a word is followed by a consonant, the W is silent. And by the way, the only consonant that comes after W at the beginning of a word is the letter R. So all of these words begin with the R sound. Wrong, wrinkle, wrap. You can just pretend the W isn't even there. And if W comes after a vowel, it changes the sound of that vowel in the same way that the letter U would.
We say, how now, brown cow, and not, ho no, grown co. But we can talk more about that in a later lesson.
I hope this lesson has helped you understand better how gringos pronounce the letters W and Y. Please check out the other videos in the Speak Like a Gringo series and leave your comments or suggestions for other topics to cover. Bye-bye.